Hey, welcome back to another focus activity with me. Um, how are you all? I hope you're well. It's Friday. Thank goodness. Um, I wonder what is everyone doing this weekend? What are your plans? I know some of you are going to be saying, "Well, I don't have any plans. I'm going to be at home." Um, But just, I was interested, do you have any plans to have a dinner or to read your book, watch some films, do something exciting in the house, even if it's just relax again? I don't know how many of you have been working, um, but I know I'm tired because I've been working all week. I've got some work to do tomorrow, just a little bit, but only one lesson, so it's okay. I'm not going to be tirelessly working on my Saturday as well. Um, but yeah, today we're doing a focus activity called genetics. Now, this is the first time I've really looked at this one, but I wanted to talk about it with you today because it's a very interesting topic. And I don't know if you guys know much about genetics in English, but you're going to find out lots about it. Okay, so in this focus activity, we're going to be looking at genetics vocabulary and using debate phrases. So, um, right, I know it's a bit difficult because we're not in a classroom, but I'd like you to fill in the gaps. Okay, so we've got A, cloning, B, genetically modified food, and C, genetic DNA fingerprinting. So I want you to put the words in the gaps and answer in the comments section. So in the comment section, A, Federico, you're from Rome. Yeah, I'm in Rome as well. Oh, no, I'm in Rome as well. Good to see you. Right, guys, the rest of you watching, I want you to say hi in the comment section, and then I want you to make a suggestion about what word should go in the gap. Okay, let's go. Okay, so we've got identifying a person from a sample of blood, hair, etc. The process of making an exact genetic copy of the parent. Adding desired characteristics to food by introducing genes from other sources. Hey, Paola, good to see you. Yeah, well done, Federico, superstar. Good, excellent. What do you guys think about this? What do you think about, for example, genetically modified food? What do you think about genetically modified food? I know that, for example, you can make all your tomatoes perfect if you genetically modify them. So you change the genetic, the biological structure of a tomato in a laboratory, and then when you plant the seeds or plant whatever, um, you start to produce tomatoes that are all the same uniform shape. So naturally, tomatoes will not look perfect all the time. Some of them will be strange shapes, right? But with genetic modification, it's possible to completely completely change tomatoes, for example, so that they all look uniform. Do you think that's good, or do you think that's weird? Why would someone want to do that? Answer in the comment section. Why would someone want to change the biological structure of a tomato so that when tomatoes grow, they all look the same? What's the point? What's the objective? There's no right or wrong answer here. I just want to know what your thoughts are about this, because for me it's weird. Maybe some of you might think, well, if we can test it on fruit and vegetables, we can test the same model on humans, animals, okay? But what is the danger of producing fruit and food that has been genetically modified? Is there a danger? Yeah, it's really weird. I mean, I quite like it when fruit and vegetables are the same shape, are like different shapes. Sorry, I quite like it when you can go to a supermarket and you can see tomatoes and they're all different shapes. Oranges that are naturally different. That's something you don't always see in the UK, for example. It depends what kind of fruit and vegetables you buy, but sometimes you see food that just looks too perfect. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, because you don't know, you don't know what you're doing to your body. I think it might be fine. If I eat a genetically modified carrot, it doesn't mean that I'm going to die, but it just you question why I did that, and whether that impacts my body. It might not. It might be relatively small, but if you start in humans, we have this thing. It's called stem cell treatment. You guys heard of that? Stem cell treatment? Now, I am not a biologist, okay? Just going to make that clear, that my disclaimer right now. I studied biology at school, but I didn't get the best grade in the world. I understand the concepts of biology, but I am by no means a biologist. So anything I say during this class, I'm talking in very general terms here, okay? So stem cell treatment is when they take cells and they modify the cells, and then they put the modified cells back into the body of a person, and the modified cells start to grow, to multiply in number, and sometimes these cells are actually able to cure people, for example, of cancer. More recently, I saw two people who'd been in inverted commas cured of HIV, but I don't know if you can say that they're fully cured, for example. And the other thing is, with people who have been cured from cancer with these stem cells, you think, well, stem cell treatment works, it does work, but you also it doesn't mean that suddenly you don't have to worry anymore. I think even with someone who's had cancer, There's no reason why cancerous cells can't come back. You know, we're only humans, so you know, it might solve one problem, but it doesn't prevent another problem from happening. I don't think, anyway. But I think stem cell treatment is a very fascinating field of science, and it's good that we can do that, but I wonder, there are always risks. There are always risks, I think. Okay, let's move on. I just need to find the slides again. Where have I hidden it? All right, there we go. Today we're going to talk also about fingerprinting and cloning. Okay, so fingerprinting. So nowadays, what we have is you can put your fingers and your hand on a scanner. So when you get your so for example, when I got my Italian ID card, I had to give my fingerprints on the special little machine. And I had to do that in order to get my identity card. So it's kind of weird, because from where I'm from in Scotland, we don't do that. We don't do fingerprints to get identity cards. We do fingerprints if we're arrested by the police, but we don't do it for identification purposes. Okay, at least not at the moment, I don't believe. That might change. As far as I'm aware, we don't do that. Okay, but it's quite common here in to give your fingerprints for identity documents. Hey, Mirko, how are you doing? How's it going? I recognize you. Yeah, it is you. I recognise the name. How are you? It's a difficult topic, Paula, I know, but I'm here to challenge you. In these difficult times, I'm here to add challenge and difficulty to your daily life. No, I'm joking. You don't have to be a biologist to get this right. I just need you guys to use your imagination, okay? Just ideas. Even if it's not true, just go for it, okay? Another one, cloning. Right, to clone. To clone. To clone. What does to clone mean? To clone. What does to clone mean? And can you give me an example in a sentence, please? Okay. Yeah, I am. I'm doing really well. Really well. Under the circumstances, I'm doing well. To create a copy of something. Well done. Well done. Okay. So have you guys ever heard of when a group of Scottish scientists cloned a sheep? Dolly the sheep. So a group of Scottish scientists. Yeah, exactly. Well done, Mirko. So in Scotland a few years ago, a group of scientists cloned a sheep, and a new sheep was born, and the sheep was called Dolly. Dolly. Okay, what do you think about this? Do you think it was right to clone a sheep? What do you think from an ethical point of view? Do you think it was right to make a genetic copy of a sheep, or do you think it was pointless? What about fear, like cruelty to animals. Do you think it's cruel to do that? Should we just leave the sheep alone? Part of me thinks that we should just leave the sheep alone, but sometimes we have to make sacrifices for the benefit of science, but sacrifice is it's a whole other topic, I think. Yeah, I agree with you, Paula. Yeah, it's to play with things. You really need to plan things out. I mean, I read another article about a group of scientists who tried to create an artificial womb, a womb. So that is, instead of um, allowing a sheep to get pregnant and then for the sheep to grow the calf in the lamb, sorry, in her womb, and then give birth to the lamb. Okay, instead of just allowing that process to occur naturally, what happened was they artificially created a pregnancy. So they got the lamb, okay, and then they grew the lamb that was premature, a premature lamb, in a bag, with blood and nutrients. Okay, so they recreated an artificial womb using a premature sheep. Okay, a premature lamb, that is. And then, and the lamb started to grow as it would do in a normal, natural situation. So then they gave birth to the lamb. So they opened the bag, the lamb came out. It was like boiling a chicken in a bag. Okay, it was that kind of level of weirdness. Okay, they took the lamb out. The lamb was alive, but then what did they do? They killed the lamb, and then they dissected the lamb to see if everything was working. And I couldn't understand why they would do that, because the question is, if you want to see if an experiment works well, so if you try to grow a lamb in a bag to see if it will survive, grow to be the proper size for an infant lamb, an infant sheep, like a lamb is an infant form of a sheep, right? It would have made more sense to keep the lamb alive. But the fact that they killed the lamb after they opened the bag just to see if their experiment had worked, for me, just was very, it was counterintuitive. Guys, I don't know if you know this word, counterintuitive. No, counterintuitive. Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. It was an experiment about how scientists could help give life to animals, and ultimately they want to do this with humans. They want to help save premature babies, okay? But to have an experiment to create life and then kill it immediately afterwards to check to see everything had worked didn't make sense to me. It would have made more sense if they'd let the lamb grow and live and see if everything was okay. Because in reality, there was probably nothing wrong with the lamb. They'd probably been successful, but they were too scared, and that was something that I didn't like. I really didn't like. You have to be so careful when you mess with nature. I don't think it's right to mess with nature, What do you guys think? Do you think scientists should mess with nature? Yes or no? And why? Okay, so this is my question. So don't worry about the questions on the screen. I want you to look at the question I've put for me. Good, well done, Miracle. I agree with you. I think I personally, I think people should just leave animals alone. There's a reason. There is a reason why, you know, some lambs don't survive, right? So if a lamb is not meant to live, it's not meant to live. It's destiny. So when you kind of try to intervene and save the lamb, you're kind of messing with reality, messing with destiny. And I think it's the same. It's almost like you're trying to be God. You're trying to be God in the situation. That's just my perspective. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. And I think it's also the thing is as much as it's really, really sad when babies are born prematurely and they don't survive. Okay, that's awful. That's really awful. It's the worst thing for a parent. You know, some parents never get over the loss of a child. And I know that from, you know, people in my family, but it's at the same time you think, how would you want the situation to be different? In reality, you're not mourning the fact that the scientists couldn't go in and make everything right necessarily, because sometimes there are things that cannot be changed. You know, that scientists could have helped helped to make a child grow, but if the child wasn't going to have the best quality of life for whatever reason, you just think, why why try to intervene? Verb, to intervene. Like when you try to get involved in something and it's not necessarily. Okay, all right. um okay, good, guys. Let's move on, because it's quite a this can get into quite a heavy subject, which I don't want to go too far into. I think we're all in agreement that it's kind of okay. Genetics, right? So you're not going to work with a partner, but I want you to look at these questions. Do you think forensic evidence based on DNA fingerprinting should be used in court? Why or why not? Do you think criminals should be found guilty based on DNA fingerprinting alone? How do you feel about genetically modifying crops and plants? We've already discussed this. Ignore number 3, guys. Would you want to have your own clone? Why or why not? And we've already talked about cloning animals. So I only want answers to 1, 2, and 4. So we're doing 1, 2, and 4. Okay. Okay. So with regards to criminals, do you think fingerprinting is a good thing? Number 2 is interesting. Number 2 is quite a... I think number 2 in fact is something that should be done, unless there was some... I mean, you obviously need to look at each case by case to understand the whole story. But I think if there's DNA evidence, that should be enough to say no. If your fingerprints are on the gun, for example, you know, it's like, well, you did it, didn't you? You know. Okay. I think fingerprinting, like, yeah, I agree with you, Paola. It's like it forms part of the picture, right? Because you kind of, unless the whole courtroom was there to witness what happened. No one's going to know. Okay, it needs to be in partnership with other things. Yeah, I agree. There needs to be some partnership. Okay, I mean, I think in some situations it might be sufficient to prosecute somebody and to say, right, and to declare that someone is guilty of an offence. In certain situations, it might be very, very obvious, okay? But then in other situations, you think, well, if someone was maybe in the same place but earlier in the day, right? You just don't know the exact order of events. So you need to consider the whole picture. Yeah, yeah. I think it helps, but so say for example, I'm teaching at work, so I'm at the school, for example, and Mirko and I are both at the school, and then I leave, and then he leaves, but then one of us returns to the school later that night, and someone dies. Okay, now if both Mirko and I have been in the school that day, perhaps both of our fingerprints are left at the scene, right? But it doesn't automatically say that it was both of us who did it or one of us who did it. It could have been someone else. So it's about building a picture. It's about understanding that, okay, there are people, there are suspects, there are people who were at the scene at a time or in, during that day, maybe had contact with certain objects, okay, and that could be a coincidence, but there needs to be like um, it needs to be in partnership with other investigative tools, I think. Okay, excellent. Number 4, I want to know. Number 4. Yeah, yeah. I agree with you, Federico. Imagine if like your clone ate all your breakfast. You went to the bathroom just to like do your hair, and then you came back out of the bathroom and your clone had eaten all your breakfast. No, not good. No, one Paula is enough. I would say the same thing about myself actually. Also if you're slightly oh, how do I say, like, I know some women can be a little irrational at times. So if you have two exact copies, so if you've got two versions of the same person and both people are really like irrational, that would just, there's no need. One of me is enough, I think. Also, if you have a clone of everybody, then I don't know, the world would be a very, very boring place. Also, it would be really difficult from a crime point of view because it's like it wasn't me, it was my clone. My clone did it. My evil clone. My evil clone. Yeah, exactly. Also, the thing is that if you are a twin or a triplet, and you are identical, you do not need more of the same, right? It's kind of weird. Okay, let's. I think twins have a different point of view. Yeah, yeah. But the thing is, with identical twins or just twins in general, they have it's like a sort of telepathic, like a psychic thing. Like I don't know. Is I've heard this. It's like it's really really difficult. So they understand, or they have, like, when they're together, they kind of understand each other in a kind of weird sense, you know? I don't know if anyone's heard this or knows twins. It's not that they know what the other one is doing, but it's like they have an understanding of each other, which is different. It's always kind of interesting. Actually, and talking about genetics, actually, um, do you find it funny how um, twins twins sometimes have triplets? And so if a woman who is a twin has children, sometimes they have twins or triplets themselves because of the genetics. Yeah, quite funny. That happened in my family. Okay, let's move on. Hello, Dolly. Okay, what do you think each of these words mean? Match them to their meanings. Okay, so let's go. I have twins, cousins. It's really strange. Yeah, I bet it is. I find it quite funny, but also fascinating. Especially, I remember um, my grandfather's sisters. Um, they're they were twins. One of them died, but the other one is still alive. And it's strange because um, kind of losing. It's almost like losing half of you, I imagine. It's really strange, but it's when they were in the same room, it was trying to work out who was different. But it's easy when you know them. It's you start to recognize the differences in the personality, the differences in also in physical features as well. But I've got twins. One of my aunts has got twin brothers, and um, for a while, if you don't know the twins, it's really, really difficult. I don't know if you guys have ever found this when you meet twins for the first time and you're like, I literally have no idea which one is which. And it takes a bit of it takes a few meetings with them to understand the difference. Okay, let's match the words on the left with the words on the right. Let's go. Let's go. I'll give you some time to match. So reveal, herald, significant, spark, surrogate, track down, important, show something hidden, find, substitute, announce, start. Oh, Paula, sorry. 1B, let's have a look. 1B, yeah, good. What did you say? 2E. Yes. 3A. I think you've got these. 4F. 4 is F. 5. What did you get for 5, guys? 5. 5D. And 6 is to find. Right, okay. What I'd like you to do is use these words in a sentence. Okay, so pick one of the words and create a sentence for me. Okay, so surrogate, I'm going to give you a clue. We've got the expression surrogate mother. Okay. So I think it was Kim and Kanye West got a surrogate mother to have one of their children. I think it's the boy. I think it was their son, something like that. But yeah, they got a surrogate mother. So it's like instead of Kim Kardashian having the baby, someone else had the baby on her behalf. But they had to obviously artificially inseminate the surrogate mother. Ah, okay. Well done. Sorry, guys. Sometimes there's a delay between when I ask a question and when you comment. It's weird. Okay, they sparked the investigation by heralding that the task force will help. Interesting. Good, Federico. I'm impressed with that. Some women decide to become surrogate mothers for money, but I can't understand. Well done. Excellent work, guys. Really, really good. Yeah, I can't understand why surrogate mothers want. I mean, if it was a famous person, you'd want a lot of money. But what price do you put on a pregnancy? This is what I don't understand. But it's not even just a pregnancy. It's the whole ordeal. It's the whole thing. And also it's some women might suffer from postpartum depression. You probably know what I mean. Partum depression. Okay, and you think, well, so after that is depression that you feel after having a baby, but also there's like the loss. You have to grieve because you've effectively grown a baby inside you for 9 months, and then you're just like, okay, bye bye. I just don't understand how someone can do that, because something biologically changes inside you like forever. It's just I just don't understand how someone can just say, oh yeah, just give me like 1 million and I'll be all right. Come on. Yeah, good. Well done. Well done, Miracle. That's a good example. Good, well done. Excellent, guys. Right, we're going to move on to the next slide. Really, really impressed with your work. Right, let's go back to Dolly a second. So Dolly, the sheep, was really, really special because it was the first animal cloned. Okay. What was the benefit of cloning a mammal? Right, let's look at this for a second. We've discussed the negatives, but I want to, for a moment, discuss what positives can come out of cloning an animal, okay? What do you think? So let's have a short list of what the positives could be of cloning an animal in terms of benefiting science. don't know. I mean, I think the main one here is that when we cloned Dolly the sheep, we proved to ourselves that we can do it, that cloning an animal is possible. That was probably the main thing, is actually just it's that sense of, oh, give yourself a pat on the back because you've been able to clone an animal. That in itself is something that I think people would say is a plus point for this. But at the same time, you think, well, good for you. Like it's a difficult one, because you think, well, great, you potentially unlocked a Pandora's box of, or in English we would say opened a can of worms. To open a can of worms. Open a can of worms. A Pandora's box for, well, you could say that, but to open a can of worms. I don't know if you guys know this expression. To open a can of worms means when you, if you think about it, open up a can, and normally there's like soup or tomatoes in there, but if you open up a can and there's a load of worms, and the worms start wriggling out, and you've got worms everywhere, and you think, oh, that's disgusting. It's when you open up something that reveals something that is potentially dangerous, it's possible, but it opens up problems. When you reveal something, you start something that brings you problems. Yeah, so it's like lab animals. Yeah, exactly, lab animals. This is true. But do you think, on that point, so if you clone an animal like Dolly, so you clone a sheep, and then you've got your sheep, the cloned one, and then you think, right, okay, I'm going to try and see if I can find a cure for whatever illness using this cloned sheep. Do you think that that is going to bring you accurate results? If it's a true clone, do you think that that is going to bring you results that are going to be identical to humans and the same animal, you know? It's like if you tried to cure the cloned animal for an illness that actually affects the same animal, I could understand that it's for humans, sometimes it's substitute body. Yeah, okay. So organ donation. Yeah. But also maybe in within the animal world. So, for example, I don't know if say, for example, an animal needed another organ. It's not something I know too much about, but I wonder if like another sheep needed a heart, whether a cloned sheep could provide a heart for the sheep, or whether they just let the sheep die. I don't know. Because historically, if an animal was so ill, it was better to just put the animal to sleep, like to so like a dog. If a dog is so ill, the vet can put the dog down. Let me write that. When the vet puts an animal down, the vet gives injection to kill the sick animal. Okay, I don't know if you guys know this. In English, the verb to put down, okay, is not a positive phrasal verb in every sense, okay? So to put someone down is to belittle them. to belittle a person, to put them down. Don't put me down, okay? But to put an animal down actually means to put the animal into a deep sleep so that the animal dies, okay? Oh God, that sounds grim, Paula. Yeah, I know, Federico. It's good. I'm pleased with your answers, though, guys. Don't worry. I wasn't expecting you to know the answers to everything. Okay, let's move on. Um, mm, mm, mm. What do you think? Okay, more of the same. Okay, so what do you think about cloning the following? Cows that produce lots of milk, world-class sports stars, endangered species, dogs to sniff out drugs at airports, super intelligent scientists, expert soldiers, and life-saving surgeons. What do you think about cloning these people? Do you think it works that way? Do you think that's how it works? I mean, to be honest, I don't think we should be cloning anything. Not even the endangered species. Endangered species is an interesting one. Should let's ignore the rest of them. Yes, indeed. In fact, Federico, should we clone endangered species? I think no. But it depends if it's because people have been killing the animal and that is why they've become endangered. There's an argument to say we could clone them, but you really I wouldn't want our intervention to replicate like something that's bad. So, for example, if um, there are mutations in the animals, if the animal if the animal we clone has a mutation, um, it's or you know there's something in its genetics which could reproduce in other animals. I don't think that's a good idea. Yeah, I agree with you, Paula. Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer to any of these things. I think a lot of people just have difficulty with the idea of intervening on something that isn't our place. It's a question of actually knowing your place, knowing what the boundary line is. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. I think ultimately what we've established is knowing what the boundary lines are with science. Okay, there are people who are willing to push the boundaries, and there are other people who don't think it's a good idea. Um, are there regulations in place? Sure, there probably are, but equally, there is permission being granted to teams of scientists wanting um, to invent the next artificial womb, etc. There are teams of scientists working on vaccines, as we know, and it's like, the question is, how much are we willing to sacrifice for the sake of looking after ourselves, our own interests? It's a good question. Okay, guys, I am so sorry, but we have reached the end of our time limit on this webinar. So I'm going to have to say goodbye to all of you right now. Thank you so much for helping, for your contribution. I've loved speaking to you all this morning. Enjoy the rest of your day and have a lovely Easter. If I don't see you, have a lovely Easter. Bye-bye.